Chapter 101. The battle begins. Tang Wuling noticed that the light dragon dagger in Shishi's hand had reduced in size by one circle and its light had become dimmer, yet it seemed to have grown more solid. The lines on the dagger were even clearer to see and now carried a terrifying aura to it. 2 rings. There's actually a student in Class 5 with 2 rings? Despite having just arrived at the sidelines, Wang Henshu's mouth was already agape. In comparison to Class 1 with its 3 Soul Grandmasters, the fact that a Soul Grandmaster appeared in Class 5 was even more shocking. It was an unprecedented event in all of East Sea Academy's history. Wang Henshu felt his face heat in pain as though he'd been smacked in the face. Oh, Wu Zhangkong, you truly are capable. The whole of Class 5 began to cheer when they saw that there were actually 2 rings beneath Shishi's feet. In a flash of light and shadow, the 2 of them rushing towards the other. With a grave expression, Shishi sped up, turning into a golden light, spiraling in and up towards Wei Zhofeng and pressing him back. Before they even clashed, Shishi's oppressive aura made Wei Zhofeng feel as if he was being chopped up. What powerful soul power! He must have just broken through. While I'm already at rank 22, how can his soul power still be so oppressive? Naturally, Wei Zhofeng didn't know that with his twin souls, Shishi's soul power was far mightier than others at the same rank. None of the other 4 remained idle while these 2 clashed. Tang Wuling didn't immediately release his martial soul, but rather he rushed forward madly, making a beeline for the opponent's commander, Jiang Yangxi. Gu Yue's figure flickered for a moment before quickly reappearing behind Tang Wuling, as if she were his shadow. Although Tang Wuling only relied on his tyrannical strength and was nowhere near as fast as Shishi, he was certainly not slow either. Gu Yue was light as a feather, as if she were a ghost. From beginning to end, she stuck herself to Tang Wuling's back. Jiang Yangxi stood there without budging a single inch, as if he paid no mind to Tang Wuling's charge at all. Rather, it was Wang Jingxi who moved from his side. Similar to his teammates, Wang Jingxi also had 2 soul rings. His slim figure seemed to swell a bit, but what had grown in size weren't his muscles, but rather his skeleton. He looked like a bony rack as he raised his arms to let forth a stream of black gas. He actually has martial soul with the darkness attribute. Wang Jingxi took large strides forward to meet Tang Wuling, his arms extended in front of him the whole time. 2 black flames seemed to ignite within his eyes as he advanced. His spirit soul was nowhere to be found and no one knew what it was. Despite this, Tang Wuling's expression remained unchanged. A white soul ring appeared underfoot as he raised his arms forward and the little gold light slithered out from his shirt collar to expose its tiny head. Of those present, it was only Wu Zhangkong in the audience who noticed that Goldlight's head had grown much larger than before. But with its body hidden within Tang Wuling's clothing, he couldn't get a clear look at it. A layer of earth and yellow light enshrouded Tang Wuling, causing his figure to appear even bigger than before. His speed, however, slowed down a bit. A red ball of light flew by his shoulder from behind, just barely missing. Surprisingly, it was a fireball. Pow! It struck Wang Jingxi's right hand, but in a flash of black radiance, the fireball was extinguished. In the moment following, he began his exchange of blows with Tang Wuling. A face-to-face battle was the domain of an assault system soulmaster. Bang! A muffled bang was heard. Tang Wuling came to a stop with a trembling body while Wang Jingxi retreated 3 steps after receiving Tang Wuling's punch. The unmoving Jiang Yangxi's face colored with astonishment. He understood how much strength Wang Jingxi possessed, as he had a first-class close combat martial soul that made him an excellent assault system soulmaster. In fact, even he himself could not compare in physical strength with Wang Jingxi. He had been absolutely convinced beforehand that within East Sea Academy's intermediate division, and for those with less than 3 rings, there were few who could compete in strength. After all, Wang Jingxi's martial soul was just that powerful. Yet, an unbelievable scene played out before him. A mere 1-ring soulmaster with a 10-year soul ring actually possessed strength that surpassed Wang Jingxi's. This was simply inconceivable. It wasn't just Jiang Yangxi who thought this way. Wang Jingxi was equally as shocked at Tang Wuling's strength. In the moment when they had exchanged blows, he felt as if he was a lone man facing an unshakable mountain. That tremendous strength of Tang Wuling's was something he was completely unable to contend with. He couldn't help but retreat. Gu Yue didn't follow up with another attack, but instead continued to hide behind Tang Wuling's back. They still had one opponent who had yet to make their move, so she wanted to conserve her strength. In the moment Tang Wuling's fist struck Wang Jingxi, the peculiar feeling within Gu Yue's heart grew even further. On the other side, Shishi and Wei Zhofeng were still engaged in an intense clash. Faced with the threat of Shishi's assault, Wei Zhofeng's first soul ring lit up as he used his first soul skill. His body suddenly became illusory as a series of phantoms appeared behind him. These phantoms appeared unreal as they revolved around him, and he blended in among them, making it hard for others to identify the real one. For his green shadow snake martial soul, Wei Zhofeng's first soul skill was green shadow clones. Wei Zhofeng's spirit soul and martial soul backed up his arrogance. With their extreme compatibility with each other, the soul skills he obtained had been a level higher than what other soul masters could get. Although these green shadow clones were simply clones, they were nearly identical to the real thing and possessed an illusory air to them. Wei Zhofeng's foot quietly reached out, winding about Shishi's leg. Could Shishi distinguish between the phantoms and the true body? Naturally, the current him couldn't, but he still had means. Wu Zhangkong had taught him that if he ever encountered an opponent with abilities he could not analyze, the best method to deal with them was to fully display one's own abilities. With the use of his strongest abilities, Shishi would forcefully break through. Thus, Shishi activated his first soul ring, lighting up the green shadow clones for a moment. A radiant golden blade slashed out. Why do I care how many phantoms you have? One attack and I'll know which one is real and which are fake. After reaching rank 20, Shishi's soul power had reached another realm, causing the might of his light dragon blade to grow substantially. The blade of golden light was just like a crescent moon slashing out. A series of shrill sounds could be heard as the edge of the blade sliced through the wind. Wei Zhofeng was startled. He hastily pulled back his foot and jumped in an attempt to evade Shishi's attack. But destroyed phantoms were still destroyed phantoms. When he leapt up in retreat, the phantoms followed right behind him. In that moment, he was revealed. Shishi exploded off the balls of his feet, raising his light dragon blade as his body spun, heading straight for Wei Zhofeng. Wei Zhofeng's green shadow clones were assembled together in a desperate attempt to ward off Shishi, but these clones only had 10% of Wei Zhofeng's strength. Whenever Shishi's light dragon blade passed by, one clone after another would be crushed. He had broken through Wei Zhofeng's soul skill. The spectators from the first grades class 1 were dumbstruck. Wei Zhofeng was actually being caught in this wind. His clones had actually been annihilated with such a brute force method. Only Yu Yingluo was able to identify the problem. Shishi's martial soul was unusual. At first glance, it would appear to be merely a dagger, but it was far sharper than a dagger and possessed its own innate aura which exerted a level of pressure on Wei Zhofeng. Wei Zhofeng's usual confidence had been stifled, and his full strength couldn't be displayed at all. One blue vine after another shot from the ground to bind Wang Jingxi. At some point in time, a pair of metal hammers had also appeared in Tang Wuling's hands. In order to face such a powerful opponent, he couldn't hold back this time. The hammers he brought out were his 1,000 refined heavy silver hammers. He could already tell from their previous clash that Wang Jingxi's martial soul had something to do with his bones. I don't care what kind of martial soul you have. If I can forge uncommon metals, then why can't I smash your bones? How? Wang Jingxi was enraged by the loss he had just suffered in their exchange. Beneath his feet, his first soul ring began to shine, and a strange transformation overcame his body. His entire right arm rapidly expanded, especially his hand as his 5 fingers fused into 4 extremely thick ones. His fingernails turning pitch black. This enormous arm of his now gave off a tyrannical feeling. His transformation complete, he threw himself straight at Tang Wuling. Wang Jingxi didn't bother to concern himself with Tang Wuling's blue silver grass. Chapter 102. Golden Palm. Although a blue vine twisted around Wang Jingxi's body, binding him, in the next moment, a strange scene occurred. The vines came off by themselves as Wang Jingxi's body became illusory. At some point in time, Wang Jingxi had activated his second soul skill, the corresponding soul ring shining brightly beneath his feet. He had actually used his soul skills in quick succession. Jiang Yangxi revealed a smile when Wang Jingxi had utilized his second soul skill. Even if it's him, it will be difficult for him to defeat Wang Jingxi. It had to be known that Wang Jingxi's martial soul was actually a first-rate darkness type soul, the Bone Dragon King. Wang Jingxi's martial soul was superior to Wei Zhofeng's in every single aspect. First soul skill, Bone Dragon Claw. Second soul skill, Bone Soul Transformation. Wang Jingxi's Bone Soul Transformation could transform a part of his body incorporeal. Although the transformation only lasted for a short duration, he was immune to everything during that time. Naturally, with his current cultivation, he could only turn a quarter of his body incorporeal. Under his meticulous control, the incorporeal part was precisely the parts that the blue silver grass had latched onto. Despite his anger, Wang Jingxi was very cool-headed. Jiang Yangxi had told them before the battle that they couldn't underestimate class 5. Naturally, it was because this supposedly trash class had the strength to defeat 3 classes in a row. As a result, their battle plan was to have Wei Zhofeng engage one in close combat, while Wang Jingxi went all out, taking care of the other 2. Jiang Yangxi was left to clean up. After all, their goal wasn't just to defeat those in their grade. It was much higher than that. They had decided to hide Jiang Yangxi's abilities in this battle. Without a doubt, Jiang Yangxi was the core of their team. The gigantic bone dragon claw was already in front of Tang Wulin, spreading its claws wide to grab hold of him. Poisonous darkness came from the bone dragon claw. It possessed an extraordinary strength as it made Wang Jingxi's bones 10 times stronger and his strength 5 times greater. Furthermore, the amplification effect would be greater as he continued cultivating. One day, if he managed to attain 7 rings and reach the level of martial soul true body, he would be able to transform into the bone dragon king and reveal its true body. Even Jiang Yangxi's martial soul was somewhat inferior to Wang Jingxi's. Yi Yingluo had told them before that if they cultivated to become a 7-ring soul sage, the strongest among them would be Wang Jingxi. At 2 rings, although Wang Jingxi could only execute a single claw, he was confident in his chances of winning. Even if he faced a 3-ring soul elder, he would still be confident. Wulin, be careful. Gu Yue moved in a flash, removing herself from Tang Wulin's back as a burst of light came from her body. It's fine, you have me. A bizarre radiance appeared within Tang Wulin's eyes and grew in intensity as he raised his right arm. He didn't even try to dodge the gigantic bone dragon claw, nor did he use his blue silver grass to ward it off. In fact, the hammer in his right hand had disappeared too. In the depths of his eyes, a golden light flickered. He curled his right hand into a fist and punched straight at the center of the bone dragon claw. By his side, Gu Yue suddenly heard a succession of popping sounds from Tang Wulin's bones as an astonishing aura suddenly burst forth from Tang Wulin's body. This aura had only appeared for a split second, with only 2 people on the competition stage reacting to it. Right when she was pursuing Wei Zhofeng, his body went sluggish as he felt an extreme sensation of fear flash from the bottom of his heart. Not only did it slow him down, it also caused him to tremble as his soul power became unstable. The other person who had reacted was naturally Tang Wulin's opponent, Wang Jingxi. Although she had reacted to Tang Wulin's aura, Tang Wulin hadn't directed it at him. Thus, the feelings invoked within Wang Jingxi were far stronger. In that split second, Wang Jingxi no longer saw his opponent as a person, but rather, he saw Tang Wulin as a ferocious beast. His power, which originated from his within blood, suddenly turned into a restrictive force. His tremendous strength transitioned into intense trembling while his claw slowed down. Afterward, he could only stare blankly as Tang Wulin extended his right arm. He grabbed one of the bone dragon claw's digits, then exerted a tremendous amount of strength to toss him. How can this be? In the moment that Wang Jingxi had been thrown, regardless of whether it was the students on stage or the spectators and teachers off stage, everyone was dumbstruck at this scene. Long Henshu had just been preparing to intervene and block Wang Jingxi, fearing that the bone dragon claw would seriously harm Tang Wulin. In fact, he was already rushing forward to intervene when the situation took a drastic turn. Wang Jingxi's bone dragon claw had slowed for some unfathomable reason, and in the moment following, he was transformed into a human artillery shell. Only Gu Yue, who had been right by Tang Wulin's side, had seen his hand glow a golden color the moment he threw Wang Jingxi. Having seen this, her eyes were somewhat dull. That aura and power. It resembles, in the depths of her beautiful eyes, an indescribable look of shock flickered. Within her heart, the same question many others were asking appeared. How can this be? But there was a difference between her how can this be and everyone else's. Bang. Wang Jingxi landed in a confused mess in the distance. Despite the disarray he was in, however, he no longer felt that trembling. Wei Zhofeng was the most fortunate. He hadn't been able to use his second soul skill in time as she drew closer, but for some baffling reason, she had slowed down. This had given him the chance to quickly put distance between them as he dashed towards Jiang Yangxi. Tang Wulin clenched his fist, his expression radiating with happiness. There really is a chance. Without pause, he threw the hammer in his left hand straight at Jiang Yangxi with a strand of blue silver grass connected to its shaft, quietly trailing behind it. As it shot towards Jiang Yangxi, the hammer gave off an ear-piercing whistle. In a flash, it was right in front of him. At that moment, an ominous green light appeared by Jiang Yangxi's side. He felt his body tense up as he was no longer able to move a single inch. Gu Yue had used her control over the wind element to bind Jiang Yangxi. Her binding and Tang Wulin's hammer attack had happened in perfect concert. It seemed as if that hammer, which weighed over 100 kilograms, was unavoidable. Tang Wulin held onto the strand of blue silver grass connected to it. If Jiang Yangxi truly couldn't do anything to resist, then he would stop the hammer at the last second. After all, this was only a competition. A trace of shock flashed through Jiang Yangxi's eyes, but there wasn't a single trace of panic. 2 soul rings stood up beneath his feet and immediately, the loud cry of an eagle came from his mouth. With a shake of his body, he seemed to have overcome the wind element which trapped him, allowing him to take the single step necessary to evade Tang Wulin's hammer. Having released his martial soul, a shadow flew out from his back as a pair of black wings appeared from his back. A flying type martial soul? Jiang Yangxi flapped his wings and flew into the sky. The astonishing thing was that his body was now pitch black and he had violet eagle eyes. The build of an eagle wasn't too large, but its eyes were exceptionally sharp and vigorous. Rather than attacking Tang Wulin immediately, Jiang Yangxi used his flight speed, which surpassed even Shishi's speed, to arrive at Wei Zhofeng's side in a flash. His first soul ring lit up, inducing his wings to suddenly grow 10 meters in length, and became an even deeper shade of black. He enveloped Wei Zhofeng and Shishi with his large wings. This was when one saw a flying type martial soul, the first thing one would think of was an agility system soul master. However, Jiang Yangxi had actually used a control type soul skill. Could it be that he was actually a control system soul master? It was at this moment that Wang Jingxi crawled up. After leaving Tang Wulin's vicinity, that feeling of fear and dread within his heart had disappeared. Despite the unfathomable mystery they had encountered just now, he had still known Jiang Yangxi since childhood, hence knowing that he should immediately run toward the area of darkness. This isn't good. Shishi. Tang Wulin shouted for Shishi. His foot made an indent in the ground as he madly dashed straight at that black area. Along the way, he retrieved his hammer and began spreading his blue silver grass in full force, moving it to cover that area. A green light appeared beneath his feet, lightening his entire body. His speed increased by a margin, but at that moment, a golden light began to shine above that black mass. Chapter 103, Blue Silver Whip. Under that golden light, the area of darkness dissipated, revealing 4 figures inside. Light attribute. Off stage, Yi Yingluo was shocked once again. Even Shishi having 2 rings didn't shock her to such an extent. Just what is this class 5 girl's martial soul? Ever since the start of the competition, she has used wind element, fire element, and now the light element. How can she control 3 elements? This is simply inconceivable. Regardless, it was useless. With Shishi besieged by 3 people, how could he possibly endure? What was truly astonishing, however, was that despite them assembling together, Jiang Yangxi, Wang Jingxi, and Wei Zhofeng were unable to catch Shishi in that short period of time. The golden ball of light that shone above the mass of darkness suddenly exploded and began to spin. Amidst the chaos of the light's flurry, a series of clashes could be heard. Shishi's second soul skill, Light Dragon Storm. That's right, this was the powerful soul skill Shishi had obtained after making his breakthrough. With his body as the axle, he would spin rapidly whilst holding his light dragon dagger, turning the edge of his dagger into the winds of a violent storm that spiraled and slashed at his surroundings. This was a skill that encompassed both attack and defense. It was only by relying on this powerful soul skill that he was able to withstand being attacked by all sides. Tang Wulin had already arrived, once again punching out with his right hand. Just like before, only Shishi and Wang Jingxi reacted to his punch. Shishi's light dragon storm halted for a moment, while Wang Jingxi couldn't bear the pressure at all, his entire body turning rigid. One after another, strands of blue silver grass entered the area, heading out to bind their 3 opponents. At the same time, the hammer in Tang Wulin's left hand furiously smashed at Wang Jingxi. Jiang Yangxi moved quickly, but with Wang Jingxi's rigid body, it was easier for Tang Wulin to fight. A green light wrapped around Wang Jingxi's waist, and in the next moment, 3 shadows retreated back together. A black shadow helped open up a distance between them. It was Wei Zhofeng who had grabbed Wang Jingxi. His right leg seemed boneless as it continued to bend at impossible angles. The 3 of them retreated while Shishi stopped his soul skill, regrouping with Tang Wulin and Gu Yue. The battle returned to a 3 versus 3. Good, very good. Jiang Yangxi's face was colored with excitement, but his battle lust and confidence took precedence. Shishi was gasping for breath beside Tang Wulin. He stole a glance at his teammates. He didn't know why, but from beginning to end, he felt a terrifying aura coming from Tang Wulin. Are you okay? Tang Wulin whispered. Shishi shook his head. I've used quite a bit of soul power, but I can still persevere. He wasn't the only one alarmed by Tang Wulin. The opposing Wang Jingxi looked at Tang Wulin as if he were a monster. He was flabbergasted by Tang Wulin, but more than that, he was terrified of him. What's going on? How come I can't control my martial soul when I face him? Wang Jingxi's mind overflowed with questions. Jiang Yanxi said, very good. You're even stronger than we thought. Still, it is only till here. The three of us have grown up together, become soul masters together, and cultivated together. We'll let you see our coordination next. As he spoke, the two wings on Jiang Yanxi's back unfolded once more. The black light suddenly strengthened, hiding the three of them within it. The corner of Gu Yue's mouth curved into a smile. Darkness attribute control, huh? She pulled Tang Wuling back, preventing him from rushing forward as she took 2 steps forwards herself. Standing in front of their opponents, a yellow ring glimmered beneath her feet. In that moment, it seemed as if Gu Yue's eyes had begun to shine. A faint silver light flashed in the depths of her eyes as she raised her right hand. Suddenly, a golden light burst into life above her palm, as if she were holding a miniature sun. An overwhelming radiant aura rushed forth from her. She was alarmed. In the instant that Gu Yue's light element shone, his whole body felt an indescribable feeling of comfort, helping him recover his spent soul power. As Shishi's light dragon daggers were of light attribute and his shadow dragon daggers were of space attribute, basking in this golden light would naturally feel extremely comfortable. Jiang Yanxi's curtain of darkness received the light's attack, immediately diminishing as the three figures within were now faintly discernible. A blazing red light followed the golden light, fusing to create a golden red flame that ignited Gu Yue's surroundings. Element fusion. Yi Yingluo gaped at that one-winged girl on stage. A genius. She is absolutely a genius, although I don't know what her martial soul or soul skill is, for being able to merge the two elements of light and fire at such a young age. Even the word genius isn't enough to describe her. As the curtain of darkness approached the golden red flame, it began to melt away, just like snow. It was impossible for it to come any closer. Right at that moment, a bone dragon claw shot out of the curtain of darkness with lightning speed, heading straight for Gu Yue. Following the bone dragon claw was a figure surrounded by several large green snakes. There were 6 in total, their mouths wide open as they revolved around the bone dragon claw. Unlike the bone dragon claw, the snakes went around Gu Yue and shot towards Tang Wuling and Shishi in an attempt to bite them. Devouring green shadow. This was Wei Zhofeng's second soul skill. A golden blue vine pulled Gu Yue back while the golden red radiance spread across all of their bodies, covering them in a layer of light. This light warded off the darkness while Tang Wuling controlled his blue silver grass to attempt a binding once more. Suddenly, Shishi exploded forward with great speed. In that moment, his entire body seemed illusory as light and shadow flickered upon his light dragon dagger, creating an even brighter light that met the devouring green shadow head-on. None of the snake heads were able to press their assault. As Tang Wuling pulled Gu Yue back behind him, he moved up to face the bone dragon claw once more. He smashed apart a snake head with his left arm, while his right arm turned golden again as he threw a punch to meet the claw. The bone dragon claw withdrew, and in its place, a black figure suddenly shot out toward Tang Wuling. The light and fire elemental light covering Tang Wuling's body clashed with that black figure's black light, causing an explosive boom. He nimbly avoided Tang Wuling's right arm and landed a punch on Tang Wuling's stomach. This black figure arrived too suddenly. Tang Wuling hadn't been able to react at all. With regards to speed and combat techniques, he was far inferior to Shishi, and that black figure had cunningly avoided the blue silver grass covering the ground. It can't be avoided. Tang Wuling's eyes twinkled as his heavy silver hammer once again appeared in his right hand. Since it can't be avoided, then I won't try to dodge at all. His hammer smashed into that darkness, warding off his opponent, who a punch landed lightly on Tang Wuling's body while his hammer swept past. What was strange, however, was that the black figure, after being struck by his hammer, unexpectedly fell apart and scattered into countless black lights. Seeing this, a chill rose from within his body and numerous bones began popping as he was overcome with a cold trembling. Not good. I fell into his trap. Jiang Yanxi's second soul skill, Shadow Clone, created clones of himself that possessed half of his combat strength. Anything hit by the clones would be infected by the corrosion of darkness. Their soul power would be unceasingly devoured and their body would corrode. Right at that moment, Tang Wuling's blue silver grass finally managed to penetrate the mist of darkness. Tang Wuling groaned as he resisted the corrosion within his body and suddenly exerted all of his soul power. A strand of blue silver grass abruptly rose into the air, flying towards the curtain of black light. It didn't bind, but rather, it was a blue silver whip. That soft-looking blue silver grass suddenly turned tough in that moment. It covered the curtain of darkness, striking towards the interior. Even if it was that bone dragon claw, it still would have been driven aside. For a moment, Jiang Yanxi, Wang Jingxi, and Wei Zhofeng suffered from the move, causing them to stagger backwards at different degrees. Who would have imagined that the weakest-looking blue silver grass with a measly 10-year soul ring could actually exert such power? Jiang Yanxi had relaxed a bit when he'd successfully attacked Tang Wuling, and as a result, he fell prey to this strand of blue silver grass. It whipped him, sending a scorching pain throughout his body. Wei Zhofeng also suffered at the hands of this whip, making him to lose control of his devouring green shadow. Wang Jingxi, however, had relied on his powerful body to endure, but was still trembling from the pain of the whip and couldn't help but stagger back. Chapter 104. Gu Yue erupts. Are you okay, Wuling? Gu Yue gently pressed a hand onto Tang Wuling's back, causing light attribute soul power to enter him. A wave of warmth suffused through his body, lessening the discomfort. I'm fine. Tang Wuling sucked in a deep breath. Although there was still some chilliness and pain within his body, it was nothing compared to what he had experienced these past few days. If that previous pain had made him want to die, then the current pain was just like having an upset stomach. When Jiang Yanxi saw the condition Tang Wuling was in, he was startled. Despite being hit by his shadow clone and being weakest of his group members, Tang Wuling was still able to stand tall. Just what kind of situation was this? You can go die. Gu Yue suddenly shouted. Before Tang Wuling even had a chance to grab her, she'd already rushed forward. Gu Yue suddenly accelerated, a green light flickering around her body. As she sped towards them, she motioned with both her hands, shooting a fireball and an icicle towards her 3 opponents. While her attack shot towards the opposing trio, the green light covering her body shone brighter and brighter, her eyes growing clearer. After the fireball exploded, her hands had already taken on an icy blue color. Then, when the icicle shattered, that icy blue light began to blend with the green light. A chaotic gale screamed through the air, and the spectating students and teachers were reminded of the turbulent hurricane that had swept past us recently. In a short period of time, the wind and ice had already grown into a tornado 5 meters in height and 1 meter in diameter and quickly advanced towards Jiang Yanxi and his teammates. The temperature on stage plummeted as the ice shards within the swirling gale became sharp blades that cut through the air, releasing waves of ear-piercing screeches. The opposing trio's expression soured. Wang Jingxi was the first to take the initiative and act as the vanguard, while the other 2 used their soul power to protect their bodies. Evade. The entire stage seemed to be under the control of this miniature tornado as it drew them into its center. Their speed had also been cut in half, making it basically impossible for them to escape its range. Long Henshu looked upon the stage with a dumbstruck expression once again. This is the soul skill of a one-ring soul master. Can a soul elder with a 1000-year soul ring even achieve this? Blizzard. This was a combination of ice and wind. Among the trio from Class 5, the strongest one wasn't Shishi, who possessed both twin martial souls as well as the greatest soul power among them. Rather, it was Gu Yue. Gu Yue had never used her true strength until this match. Today, however, Tang Wuling had been injured by their opponents, incurring her wrath. Thus, she passed her strongest elemental attack. After creating her blizzard, however, her face became deathly pale, her body tottering on the verge of collapse. Fortunately, Tang Wuling gently held and supported her, preventing her fall. Constant collisions were heard from within the blizzard as it tore through the trio from Class 1. A twinkling light could vaguely be seen within the blizzard, indicating that they still had enough soul power to defend themselves. Shishi grasped his light dragon dagger tightly as a light gleamed within his eyes. He had faced the blizzards might long ago and clearly understood just how formidable Gu Yue was. As an agility system soul master, he was afraid that even after obtaining a second ring and with the advantage of his twin martial souls, he wouldn't be able to withstand the power of Gu Yue's blizzard. If he were forced to face it, then he would have to prepare in advance and run far away. Although he frequently quarreled with Gu Yue, he still respected her for her strength. The blizzard persisted for a full 10 seconds before it began to disperse. In the end, the temperature of the stage and its surroundings had dropped drastically. The figures of Jiang Yanxi's trio gradually appeared from within the dispersing blizzard. Standing at the front was Wang Jingxi, his clothes in tatters and his body covered with bruises. Fortunately for him, he had blocked his face with his arms, saving him from having his face disfigured. Jiang Yanxi and Wei Zhofeng's situations were somewhat better, but their faces were still pale. Their soul power was depleted after enduring that blizzard. The spectating students' perception of Gu Yue had changed. They all wondered, is she really a new student? Just how powerful will she become in the future? Light dragon dagger in hand, Shishi walked over to their opponents and said, concede defeat. Everyone could see that the opposing trio had used up at least half of their soul power and had been injured to varying degrees. Long Henshu also approached, prepared to stop the match at any moment. Even though he didn't want to admit it, Gu Yue's strength was simply too terrifying. He finally understood why that arrogant Wu Zhangkong had wanted to accept her into his class. Long Henshu had been the pig-brained one. We still haven't lost. Zhang Yanxi's gaze was just as sharp as before, but these words were barely audible from behind his gritted teeth. Wei Zhou gave him a look, before saying hesitantly, do you really want to? Zhang Yanxi resolutely looked at him. We can't lose. Jingxi, come. Wang Jingxi suddenly straightened his back, releasing a roar towards the sky as a powerful black aura overcame his body once again. A light of ridicule flashed through Shishi's eyes. They still want to overturn the heavens in their current situation? In a flash, he began advancing on Zhang Yanxi. After all, Zhang Yanxi was the core of their team, but right at that moment, a dark figure appeared. With black light spraying from its mouth, it obstructed Shishi's attack and slowing him down. Afterward, Shishi was shocked to see that Zhang Yanxi had flown behind Wang Jingxi and was now holding him by the waist. A deep dragon's roar and the cry of an eagle resounded throughout the stage. At that moment, Zhang Yanxi and Wang Jingxi's bodies became a pitch black color, like ink. Then, they began to undergo a sort of bizarre fusion. Zhang Yanxi turned into a black light, quietly merging into Wang Jingxi and becoming a pair of wings for him. Wang Jingxi's body began to grow. A large tail emerged from his tailbone, while his two arms became bone dragon claws. His aura soaring. Screw off. Wang Jingxi bellowed with a deep voice, slashing out with one of his bone dragon claws. Shishi attempted to dodge, but a black light appeared around him and made him feel like he was trying to struggle free from a swamp. This black light had appeared too suddenly for Tang Wuling to rescue Shishi with his blue silver grass. The only thing Shishi could do was defend himself with his light dragon dagger and shadow dragon dagger as he was sent flying through the air. In the air, a spray of blood escaped Shishi's mouth, and Tang Wuling could hear fractures come from Shishi's arms. Shishi. Tang Wuling dashed over and caught him. Shishi's eyes were shut tightly, having already lost consciousness. His light dragon dagger and shadow dragon dagger began to fade away with his weak aura. You bastard. This is only a match. Tang Wuling snarled as he recklessly charged towards that bone dragon. As he charged forward, a layer of golden scales began to cover his right arm starting from his fingertips. His arm seemed to grow thicker by a whole circle. Tang Wuling's pupils had already turned golden, and when he suddenly stomped with his left foot, it unexpectedly caused a boom. He exploded forward like an artillery shell, shooting straight towards that transformed Wang Jingxi. Wang Jingxi's body was far different than before. With a flap of his wings, his over 2-meter tall body ascended into the air. Then, with a simple twist of his body, he whipped his tail at Tang Wuling. Tang Wuling opened his mouth, releasing a puff of black gas. His right hand suddenly grew larger and his fingers grew longer, taking on the form of a dragon's claw. But it was different from Wang Jingxi's bone dragon claw. Tang Wuling's dragon claw had 5 claws. Bang! Tang Wuling's golden dragon claw violently clashed against that air-twisting bone dragon tail. A golden light flashed on the tail before Tang Wuling was flung into the air from the force of the collision. In midair, Tang Wuling held his body, then used the blue silver grass he had wrapped around the bone dragon to pull himself back towards it. The golden dragon claw descended once again, but this time, towards Wang Jingxi's head. Wang Jingxi brought his 2 claws together, swatting at Tang Wuling. But at that moment, Tang Wuling released an ear-piercing dragon's roar. Chapter 105, Golden Dragon Claw. A faintly discernible golden ray of light appeared from his body for a split second, causing Wang Jingxi's bone dragon claw to immediately slow down. The golden dragon claw smacked down at his head. Stop. Long Henshu and Yu Yingluo shouted out simultaneously, but at the moment, Tang Wuling's mind was only filled with rage over the sight of Shishi's injuries. With his golden dragon claw attacking at full strength, it was impossible to stop now. Right at that moment, a slender arm noiselessly appeared and touched Tang Wuling's right arm, softly pushing it aside. The golden dragon claw that was originally heading towards Wang Jingxi's head was deflected and smacked his right claw instead. Bang! Despite being several times bigger than Tang Wuling at this moment, Wang Jingxi was smashed into the ground, while Tang Wuling landed softly on the other side due to the counterforce. Enough. A cold voice rang out, just like the morning bell and the evening drum. It caused Tang Wuling to wake from his rage. Wu Zhangkong stood beside him, holding the injured Shishi. Wang Jingxi's bone dragon claw was snapped at an angle as it lay on the ground, while his tail clearly had a fracture where Tang Wuling had struck it. At that moment, a black light separated from Wang Jingxi's transformed body. When the 2 kids returned to normal, they released miserable shrieks of pain. Zhang Yanxi lay on the ground, both of his legs broken, while Wang Jingxi's right arm had fractured, bent at an impossible angle. The 2 of them couldn't help but utter screams of intolerable agony. This match had developed into something so tragic that none had expected it. Teacher Wu, how can you allow your students to be so violent? Yu Yingluo flew onto the stage, finger pointed at Wu Zhangkong as she snarled the accusation. Wu Zhangkong said to Tang Wuling, "Go." From beginning to end, he didn't spare a glance for Yu Yingluo. Yu Yingluo wanted to chase after him, but Wu Zhangkong suddenly released a sharp ice gold aura which caused her whole body to freeze up as she felt the sensation of death. After Tang Wuling's arm returned to normal, a wave of weakness came over him. Even though he had puffed out a mouthful of the black gas earlier, some still remained of that ice cold feeling within the pit of his stomach. Following behind Wu Zhangkong was Gu Yue, who was looking at Shishi in Wu Zhangkong's arms. Together, the 3 of them got off the stage. Long Henshu remained on stage with a gloomy expression as if his face was dripping with water. This time we have a major situation. In this class promotion tournament, 3 students had been seriously injured and as the referee, he had to take responsibility. This was a major situation that hadn't happened for many years. Wu Zhangkong brought Shishi directly to the infirmary to have a teacher with a recovery type martial soul inspect his body. Fortunately, it was only a fracture. Although his 2 arms had suffered some minor fractures and these injuries couldn't be considered light, his body was fine for the most part. His internal organs had only been shaken up a little, so he only needed some time to rest and recover. The dark energy within Tang Wuling was also dispersed by the teacher. Teacher Wu, Tang Wuling looked at the silent and ice-cold Wu Zhangkong, wanting to explain himself. You don't need to say anymore as you didn't do anything wrong. You 2 just hurry up and go back and rest. Wu Zhangkong indifferently said. Oh. Then Shishi? Tang Wuling hesitantly asked. I will be here. Wu Zhangkong gave him a look. At that moment, Tang Wuling suddenly felt that this ice-cold teacher wasn't so cold after all. Tang Wuling and Gu Yue left the sickbay with complicated expressions. Shishi had broken both of his arms. This was definitely a serious injury. Tang Wuling was full of guilt. If he had been fast enough to pull Shishi back with his blue silver grass at that moment, then Shishi wouldn't have suffered such serious injuries. He had been too careless as the team captain. Don't think about it too much. Gu Yue turned and said to Tang Wuling, none of us had expected a situation like that. If my guess is correct, Zhang Yanxi and Wang Jingxi had used a soul fusion skill. Supposedly, soul fusion skills are nearly impossible to see nowadays in the world of soul masters. It can only appear if 2 martial souls are exceptionally compatible with each other. Soul fusion skill. Tang Wuling had heard a bit about them in class. If 2 soul masters had martial souls that were compatible enough, then they had the possibility of using a soul fusion skill, one of the strongest types of techniques. Soul fusion skill effects didn't have the strengths of both sides, but rather, it multiplied the strength of the 2 soul masters. What I am curious about is how you are able to defeat them, even if their soul fusion isn't perfect. Your right hand. Gu Yue looked inquisitively at Tang Wuling's right arm. Tang Wuling went silent for a moment before he gently shook his head. Gu Yue, we're friends, so I don't want to lie to you, but I really can't tell you about it. So, please don't ask. Okay. Gu Yue pondered over it for a moment before giving him her reply. Fine then. I won't ask, but you must learn to control your power. It seems to be very formidable, but such great power also requires great control. It seems that during the week of the hurricane, a change occurred in your martial soul. That was right. A change had indeed appeared. Moreover, it was an extremely powerful change. Tang Wuling thought back to when he had taken those spirit medicines and attacked the seal afterward. Intense pain. Pain so intense that Tang Wuling couldn't even be bothered to take in the changes around him anymore. Chill, heat, itchiness. These 3 sensations replaced each other frequently in what seemed like an endless cycle. And when he thought it was over, he began to feel all 3 at the same time. The only reason he had been able to succeed was by clinging on to his sense of existence. Regardless of how intense the pain was, he never gave up in his heart. This was the reason he had been able to surpass his limits. After some time, he grew muddle-headed. At that moment, he could vaguely see that his body as well as his surroundings had turned golden. The golden veins within his skin came alive, slowly creeping up his body. With a clanging sound, it seemed that something within his body had been torn to shreds. At that time, he still didn't understand the meaning of pain. Suddenly, an indescribably powerful and fantastic energy drew into every single corner of his body. Cold, heat, itchiness, all disappeared. In its place was a feeling of being bloated. His bones, meridians, viscera, and skin all felt as though they had inflated and would pop at any moment. This is the seal's energy. In that instant, Tang Wuling no longer doubted old Tang's words. The energy that was sealed from the Golden Dragon King's soul could definitely cause his body to explode if his body wasn't strong enough. Faced with the assault of such tyrannical energy, he was afraid that his entire being would shatter. The pain from that feeling of bloatedness gradually reached a peak before receding. He had survived and hadn't blown up. In that moment, Tang Wuling was sure that he was fine. Is the seal breaking done? His mind gradually relaxed as the pain receded, until finally, he lost consciousness. The golden veins along Tang Wuling's body broke apart, becoming tiny specks of light that moved away from his body while the golden veins on his vertebra became even clearer. Gradually, the golden veins reappeared on his body, but this time they were much more prominent and deeper in color. The golden specks of light slowly merged with his right arm, while the rest of his body underwent an imperceptible transformation. After surviving the onslaught of the seal's energy, he now had to assimilate it and undergo a transformation. The little grass snake, Goldblight, slithered onto Tang Wuling's body. It lazily curled up atop his body, the golden lines on its skin now closely resembling those on Tang Wuling's. Goldblight trembled slightly, as if it was experiencing tremendous agony. Its trembling, earth and yellow body gradually turned golden as it grew longer and larger. It no longer looked as weak and frail as before. A strand of blue silver grass quietly appeared within the palm of Tang Wuling's right hand. The golden veins along its body no longer seemed as illusory as before, but rather, a golden light could clearly be seen within. This fine like grass was now taller and straighter, no longer seeming as delicate as it had been. Chapter 106, a pleasant surprise in the future. When Tang Wuling woke up, his entire body felt relaxed and at peace. All of the previous pain and suffering had vanished. The first thing he did was enter his mind's spiritual world. You have awoken. Old Tang rejoiced. I succeeded in breaking the seal? Tang Wuling asked. You have succeeded in breaking the first seal and have absorbed the Golden Dragon King's soul. All things begin with hardship, so this first breakthrough can be considered you laying down your foundation. After some time passes, you will experience more and more of the benefits from this breakthrough. Tang Wuling impatiently asked, what kind of benefits? Will my soul power increase by a lot? Old Tang said, no. The Golden Dragon King's soul will mainly affect your body, though there will be some improvement to your soul power with each broken seal. It will not be as significant. The important thing is that your body will transform under its influence, gradually gaining the strength of the Golden Dragon King. After breaking through your first seal, you now possess a trace of a dragon's might. In the future, when facing dragon-type beasts that are inferior in rank to the Golden Dragon King, you will be able to suppress them with your dragon aura. Naturally, the larger the gap in cultivation between you and your opponent, the weaker the effect will be. Secondly, the part of the Golden Dragon King's power you have absorbed is its right hand. After you have thoroughly absorbed this piece of its soul, you will be able to transform your right hand into a dragon's claw. The Golden Dragon Claw's strength is tremendous, and it also possesses a special property, that is, crushing. Simply said, there is almost nothing it cannot overcome. Assuming the hardness of the object is within a certain range, anything you attack with your Golden Dragon Claw will definitely be broken. After you break through more seals in the future and fuse with more of the Golden Dragon King's power, the benefits you receive will be even greater. Do not lightly use the Golden Dragon Claw, however, although it is now a part of your body, using it will still consume an enormous amount of your soul power. Golden Dragon Claw? I can control the Golden Dragon Claw now. Tang Wuling unconsciously looked toward his right hand. With a single thought, his right hand transformed and a layer of golden scales began to cover it. But that was the extent of the current changes. Don't be so anxious. You still need some time to absorb the Golden Dragon King's soul before you will be able to use it. Alright then, onto the second seal now. You must undo the seal before you turn 15. To do this, you will need to find or purchase 4 different heaven and earth treasures. I will brand their descriptions into your mind. Oh, and one more thing. If you are able to break the second seal, there will be a pleasant surprise for you. A pleasant surprise? Tang Wuling wanted to ask what it was, but old Tang's figure was already fading away. When Tang Wuling returned to his dorm, Yan Xiao and Zhou Hangxi were already there. How is Shishi? Asked his 2 roommates as they hurriedly got up. Tang Wuling answered with a hint of anger. I'm afraid that he'll be forced to rest for a while so that he can recover. But you know, I'd never have expected them to be so fierce. It was just a competition after all. Yan Xiao and Zhou Hangxi exchanged a glance before Yan Xiao let out a few small coughs and said, your moves weren't light either. Both of Zhang Yangxi's legs were fractured, and Wang Jingxi's right arm was also broken. I also heard that Wei Zhofeng was so scared of you that he pissed his pants. Tang Wuling was stunned. Now that he thought about it, it did seem that Zhang Yangxi's legs had turned into Wang Jingxi's tail when they were in their combined form. That must be how his legs had fractured after suffering Tang Wuling's Dragon Claw's crushing property. He had not noticed because they had truly been in a desperate situation at the time. In hindsight, however, when he had struck the fused form of Zhang Yangxi and Wang Jingxi, they had continued to move despite their somewhat sluggish motions. It seemed that their soul fusion skill was still far from perfect. Moreover, after the fusion, the suppression from Tang Wuling's dragon might on Wang Jingxi had clearly lessened. If their fusion was perfect, then Tang Wuling was afraid that he wouldn't have been able to achieve victory in the end. The Golden Dragon Claw increased the strength of his right hand explosively, but it also had its limits. From his estimations, it could only double his strength at the moment. The crushing property was still the most important part. Who did the director declare the winner in the end? Tang Wuling asked. Yan Xiao shook his head. He didn't declare a winner. Long Hen Shu had a truly ugly expression as he was arranging your treatments. But even so, everyone could see that if Teacher Wu hadn't stepped in, those 2 guys would have been crippled by you. I never expected you were still hiding such strength. So what is your right hand? Tang Wuling bitterly smiled. A variation occurred in my martial soul. I'm not sure what exactly it is either. Anyway, I'm going to go meditate now. The bitterness of this competition left a profound impression on his heart. At this moment, his heart was full of regret from his impulsive actions at the end. I hope they're fine. Fortunately, we won the match, so we should be class 1 after the tournament ends. Since he had to rush over to the match as soon as he woke up from absorbing the Golden Dragon King's soul, he hadn't had any time to rest until now. As his body relaxed, he quickly entered a meditative state where he was isolated from everything. The president's room. How did this happen? With a great expression, Zen looked at Long Hen Shu from across the desk. Long Hen Shu forced out a bitter smile. The new students this time are truly prodigies. It was my fault. I wasn't able to stop them in time. I take full responsibility for this. But I must say, the new students this year are absolutely outstanding geniuses. If we can guide them properly, they will definitely become the pillars for East Sea Academy in the future. The reason today's match had gone out of control was because at the very last moment, 2 Soul Grandmasters from class 1 had used an incomplete Soul Fusion skill. Their Soul Fusion skill is most likely an exceptionally powerful one that requires them to have at least 3 rings to be able to use to its full extent. Soul Fusion skill. Zen's eyebrows rose in excitement, a light of surprise flashing through his eyes. In his delighted surprise, his anger had weakened a bit. Yes, a soul fusion skill. Although it isn't complete yet, its strength was able to break both of Shishi's arms. What's even more shocking is what happened afterward. A one-ring soul master with a 10-year soul ring from class 5 suddenly exploded in power. His right hand transformed into a dragon claw. With 2 attacks of his claw, he was able to break through the soul fusion skill. Fortunately, he was stopped just in time. Otherwise, he might have crippled the other students. Zen was startled. A one-ring soul master who can transform his right hand and use it to defeat the soul fusion skill of 2 soul grandmasters. Are you trying to tell me a fairy tale? Long Hen Shu sighed. I'm finding it hard to believe as well, but it is a fact. Over 1,000 students and teachers witnessed it. This isn't something I could make up even if I wanted to. If you don't believe me, then you can go investigate it yourself. In my opinion, that Tang Wuling's variant martial soul is likely a body martial soul from the legendary Shrek Academy. Zen was suddenly terrified. What did a body martial soul mean? A body martial soul combined with a mecha would undoubtedly create a shining genius. The 2 words, Shrek Academy, were enough to fill the eyes of East Sea Academy's president with a light of reverence. If that's true, then we can pardon the situation today. After all, it was just too unexpected. Director Long, write a detailed report on this matter for me. Long Hen Shu said, Tang Wuling's martial soul was originally the trashy blue silvergrass, but if a variant body martial soul appeared within him, then it might mean he has twin martial souls. Then he wouldn't be trash anymore, but a genius. President, I have a proposal. What is it? Wu Zhen suspiciously eyed him. Longhand Shu bitterly laughed. With the condition the first grade is in at the moment, I don't think it would be fitting for the class promotion tournament to continue. From what I've seen today, I don't think the second grade, no, not even the third grade would stand up against their might. These students might not necessarily be a good thing. As such, I think we will need to give these new students special treatment. What kind of special treatment? Chapter 107, Pondering the Golden Dragon Claw. Longhand Shu said with sparkling eyes, with geniuses such as them, an ordinary teacher wouldn't be enough. As such, let's establish a special class in addition to the 5 classes we already have. The geniuses of this class will have the academy's strongest teacher to guide them from the intermediate division all the way into the advanced division. That way, they'll spend at least 9 years in the academy. As long as we guide them properly, the shining future of our East Academy's success will be just around the corner. Wu Zhen pondered over it for a while. He had to say that Longhand Shu's words moved him. A special class for cultivating geniuses with the backing of all of the academy's resources. With this year's new students and their unique talents, this proposal would give the academy a chance to truly shine in the future. If that happened, then the academy would be able to recruit even more talented new students. He envied those first-rate academies in major cities that were able to recruit students from all over the Federation. This was exactly one of the reasons why the strong stayed strong. Although East Academy was in a major city flourishing with business due to the ocean's resources, many students were still dissuaded from picking the academy due to its location in a corner of the continent and the nature of the surrounding terrain. Overall, East Academy could only be considered a rank within the lower middle rankings when compared with the rest of the continent. It wasn't remarkable at all. Perhaps this year's new students truly were a turning point for them. Which teacher do you think is most suitable then? Implementing this plan would be fairly easy, but the creation of this special class would necessitate pouring all of the academy's strength into cultivating this class. Longhand Shu had clearly decided on someone long ago, as he said without the slightest hesitation. Let's assign teacher Wu Zhen to this class. He is the strongest within the academy, and the result of the tournament was clearly influenced by his teaching ability. When he was still in the advanced division, he didn't conform to the group and isolated himself from the other teachers, never displaying his full strength. I think it will be most fitting for him to train these few elite students instead. Wu Zhen nodded. I agree with your plan. I'll go make a proposal to the board of directors. All right then, you may leave now. Longhand Shu respectfully said, President, I'll take my leave then. He rejoiced within his heart. The president had surely been swayed by his attractive words, and this matter had now come to a close without any disciplinary actions against him. His calculating methods were actually meant to allow him to shirk his responsibilities. Of course, he did have some hopes for this new class. When Tang Wuling awoke from his meditation, he was gifted with the sight of dawn. Shishi hadn't returned yet as he was recuperating in the infirmary. Zhou Tangxi and Yanxiao were both still meditating. With the provocation of Class 5's continuous victories, everyone was now diligently cultivating with renewed vigor. Tang Wuling's body was brimming with a power that made him want to face the sky and just scream. Ever since he had broken the seal, he hadn't had any time to carefully inspect the changes in his body until now. He subconsciously began to stare at his hands. On the surface they appeared exactly the same as before, but in reality, his skin had become fairer. When he touched his skin, it was also a great deal more elastic. His soul power had risen by at least 1 rank while his control over his soul power had also grown much stronger due to his spiritual power increasing too. In the end, Tang Wuling wasn't sure exactly how much his power had increased. After all, he had never tested himself in this way before. Is this the power of the first seal on the Golden Dragon King? When he recalled his use of the Golden Dragon King's power the day before, he began to concentrate on wielding that power once more, and very naturally, a familiar feeling reappeared within his right arm. Immediately, a layer of convex, rhombus-shaped golden scales covered his right arm like a layer of armor. At the same time, the feeling of power within his arm increased explosively, yet his right hand hadn't completely transformed into the Golden Dragon Claw. The Golden Dragon King's aura was exposed while Tang Wuling continuously and meticulously circulated his soul power and strength toward his right hand. It was only then that the bones within his right hand started to show a change. His hand slowly swelled in size and dragon claws grew from his fingernails. Apart from the feeling of immense power, he could also feel a tyrannical aura being emitted. This was the transformation that came from breaking the first seal on the Golden Dragon King. His right arm, now covered in golden scales, had doubled in strength. Moreover, the Golden Dragon Claw could further increase his right hand's strength by another fold in addition to its crushing ability. It really does feel powerful. Now that he unleashed the Golden Dragon King's power outside of battle, he was able to clearly inspect the changes that occurred within his body. The most obvious change was to his soul power. His soul power was now being consumed at an astonishing rate. After only several breaths of time, a third of his soul power had already been used up. According to the current consumption speed, he could only sustain his Golden Dragon Claw for about 10 seconds. Just as he expected, a wave of weakness overcame him at the 10-second mark, and his right hand returned to normal. Yet, the power of the Golden Dragon scales was still there. He suddenly had an epiphany. The Golden Dragon Claw required the Golden Dragon King's bloodline power and his soul power to sustain it, but the Golden Dragon scales only required the Golden Dragon King's bloodline power. If it's like this, then I had been really lucky to defeat Zhang Yangxi and Wang Jingxi yesterday. Looking back upon that battle, he realized that Zhang Yangxi and Wang Jingxi couldn't completely control their soul fusion skill, so he was lucky to have been able to use his Golden Dragon Claw at just the right time to counter them. The Bone Dragon King was also of the Dragon bloodline, so in the face of the Golden Dragon King, it had been suppressed and received double the effects of Tang Wuling's strikes. This was the reason why he had been able to win after 2 strikes. In other words, the reason he had been able to win was because his Golden Dragon King bloodline was able to suppress Wang Jingxi's Bone Dragon King. I'm still not strong enough. If my opponent had fought with me a bit longer and realized that I couldn't sustain the Golden Dragon Claw for long, then he could have won by simply evading my attacks and waiting for my soul power to run out. Despite his harsh self-judgment, Tang Wuling wasn't depressed at all. When he compared himself with his past self, he had still gained much from breaking through the first seal. His body strength and overall power had increased, and the dragon scales could further increase his right arm strength. He now had the explosive power of the Golden Dragon Claw. In short, his gains had been pretty good. At the very least, he could no longer be considered trash. Oh right, Goldlight experienced a transformation as well. Recalling this, Tang Wuling wanted to release his little spirit soul to take a look. He shook his head in disappointment. However, as his soul power had already been exhausted, and he wasn't even able to release his martial soul, much less his spirit soul, his current cultivation was still too weak. Breaking the first seal had helped him with his cultivation somewhat, but he was still only at rank 13. Moreover, everyone else was around rank 20 now. He was afraid that the gap between them would just keep growing larger and larger. More effort. I need to put in more effort. He leapt down from his bed, his mind crystal clear. Careful not to disturb his roommates, Tang Wuling quietly went to go wash his face and drink a glass of water before going out for a jog. It was the start of a new day, and warming up was first. He ran laps around the track in the sports field and shouted out, I am as lithe as a swallow. He had always been good at running, but after absorbing a part of the Golden Dragon King's soul, a normal pace was simply too slow for him now. The scenery continuously flitted past him, the cool wind brushing against his cheeks. This refreshing feeling gave both his body and mind a sense of freedom and indescribable comfort. Right at that moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. As Tang Wuling was currently engrossed with this experience, however, by the time he reacted, he had already collided with this person. A pure voice called out, be careful. Tang Wuling felt a gentle force move his body, causing him to spin around in circles, dispersing all of his kinetic energy. Tang Wuling didn't grow dizzy due to his powerful body, but when he stopped spinning and was able to look at the figure before him, he still experienced a split second of vertigo. In front of him was a tall and slender girl. Tang Wuling could be considered tall among his peers, but he was still only 10 years old. The girl in front of him looked to be about 14 or 15 years old and was already beginning to turn into a woman. She wore a pink tracksuit which offset her milky white skin and her long blue hair that was collected into a bundle with a comb. Chapter 108. Ouyang Zixin. The girl was very pretty with delicate facial features and large, limpid eyes. Under the rays of the morning sun, it seemed as if a layer of golden light was drawn to her. She was simply too stunning for Tang Wuling. Sorry. Tang Wuling hurriedly apologized. In that moment, this girl with the golden radiance around her left a profound impression upon Tang Wuling. So pretty. She's even prettier than senior sister Li Yixin. Junior brother, pay attention when you're running. The young lady raised her hand to rub his head as she spoke with a beaming smile. You're very good looking. The young lady stared at Tang Wulin's large eyes, which were accented by his long eyelashes, and was astonished to see that his eyes were even larger than her own. She curiously pinched his face and giggled before she quickly turned around and left. Her pinch had hurt a bit, but it had awakened Tang Wulin from his stupor. That senior sister is so pretty. She's jogging here, so she should also be in the intermediate division, right? When he saw the young lady run further and further away, Tang Wulin hastened his pace to catch up with her. With his powerful body, he caught up in no time. Junior brother, what's your name? She turned her head to look at Tang Wulin. My name is Tang Wulin. I'm a student in the first grade. What about you, senior sister? He blurted out his words with an eager heart. He hadn't mentioned that he was in the first grade's class 5. Anyway, after winning the class promotion tournament, they should be class 1 now. You're this young yet you're already so naughty. You want to pick up this senior sister, huh? The girl shot him a crafty glance. I'm not. Tang Wulin said in embarrassment. Haha. Your embarrassed face is so cute. How about this then? Let's have a 10-lap race. If you win, I'll tell you. Before she even finished speaking, she had already increased her speed and rushed forward. 10 laps. There was no way Tang Wulin was afraid of such a competition, so he quickly picked up his pace and chased after her. The young lady was still taller than him by about half a head and had already grown into a slender and elegant woman. As she ran, her long hair flowed behind her in the breeze, while her graceful form was accented by her long and flexible legs. With each step, he could see her slender hips sway. Her whole body was just brimming with the vigor of youth. Tang Wulin's physical strength was exceptionally formidable. However, despite his shorter stature, he was still faster than her. Trailing just behind her, alarms were going off within his mind for some reason, telling him to be careful of her. Due to this, he followed just behind her and watched her, keeping up with her pace. That girl's physical strength was pretty good. Not only was she able to maintain a constant running pace, but her pace was continuously increasing. Like this, the two of them continued their race, one in front, one behind. Soon after, they were approaching the end of the 10th lap. There was still 100 meters left. It was only then that Tang Wulin remembered the goal of this competition. He suddenly sped up, unleashing his body's explosive power. He flew forward and overtook the girl by the 50-meter mark. Ouch. A cry of pain suddenly came from behind him. Tang Wulin quickly turned his head to look, but was met with the sight of that slow pink-clad figure suddenly speeding up, surpassing him, rushing straight toward the finish line. Haha. You little dummy. You've been fooled. The girl's bell-like laughter clearly rang through the first glimmers of dawn on campus. He had obviously been tricked, but when he saw this smile that was like a blossoming flower, Tang Wulin couldn't bring himself to grow angry at all. Tang Wulin ran over to the finish line where the girl waited. He scratched his head awkwardly as he said, "Senior sister is so amazing." As the young lady gazed at his bashful expression, her smile couldn't help but grow even wider. All right then. I'll stop teasing you. Junior brother's strength is pretty good. Keep it up. Finished speaking, she turned around and walked over to the dormitory, waving goodbye to Tang Wulin as she left. Tang Wulin watched her back. A peculiar feeling had been aroused within his heart. He didn't understand what this feeling was, but he knew that he wanted to keep seeing this senior sister. My name is Ouyang Zixin. I'm in the 5th grade's class 1. The girl's pure voice floated on over. Ouyang Zixin. What a pretty name. Stop staring. That senior sister is already long gone. Right at that moment, a friendly voice spoke from behind him. Tang Wulin quickly turned around to see Shishi watching him with an amused expression. His arms were still bandaged up, and while he had a smile, it wasn't quite a smile as he looked at Tang Wulin. You're better now. How are your arms? Tang Wulin greeted him in surprise. It's no big deal now. My bones have already reconnected, and they were treated by a healing-type martial soul. I'll still need at least 10 days to make a full recovery though. But I return 1 day later, and I find that you're actually chasing after senior sisters. You truly are too good. I'm not. Tang Wulin hastily defended himself. Really now? You have enough skills to do it. That senior sister even told you her name. Have you really never heard of Ouyang Zixin before? Shishi asked with a big grin. I haven't. Tang Wulin blurted out. Shishi said, she's the prettiest girl in our intermediate division. I can't believe you've never heard of her before. Actually, I even heard that there are countless seniors from the advanced division chasing after her. She's in the 5th grade, so she should be 4 years older than us. You can just give up right now. Tang Wulin grudgingly said, you're talking about age, but why do you have such thoughts in your heart? I only think that senior sister is really pretty, and I admire her. I don't have any other ideas, okay? Don't get me wrong. Shishi's mouth began twitching. Fine then. You can just stare at her foolishly. You might not acknowledge it, but who wouldn't like this kind of pretty senior sister? Every man has a profound memory of a pretty senior sister. All men have a pretty senior sister that left a deep impression on them. Tang Wulin was shaken by Shishi's words. The name Ouyang Zixin had already been engraved into his heart. They went to eat breakfast before going to class, where they were informed that all the students in the 1st grade were to gather at the sports field for a great assembly. Although Shishi's arms were still injured, his condition had stabilized, and he was able to attend his classes. A brave expression still colored Wu Zhangkong's face like normal as he brought class 5 to assemble at the field. It could be said that the 1st grade's class 1 had changed now. When they arrived at the field, they attracted the gazes of all of the other classes. Most of these gazes drifted toward Tang Wulin, Shishi, and Gu Yue. Of course, the most prominent one among them was Tang Wulin. The day before he had prevailed at the last moment in a desperate crisis, shocking countless people and engraving a deep impression upon their hearts. Have we become celebrities? Gu Yue asked in a hushed tone. Shishi shot her a disdainful glance. With how mature you act, why are you so interested in how people see you? And besides, it would be more accurate to say that Wulin is the celebrity here. I heard he was the one who won us that match in the end yesterday. Ah, that's right. Wulin, I haven't thanked you for avenging me yesterday yet. Tang Wulin shook his head. I really shouldn't have acted that way. It wasn't right for them to injure you, but it also wasn't right for me to injure them. After all, we are all fellow students. Gu Yue gave a cold snort. Take a look at Wulin, then take a look at yourself. In any case, I don't care if I'm a celebrity now or not. And besides, there was a certain someone who was so confident but was immediately knocked out yesterday. You. Shishi glowered at Gu Yue. Gu Yue disdainfully said, what? You won a match for me even when you weren't injured, yet you're still trying to show off in your current condition. I've had it with you. Shishi said, smothering his anger. He simply couldn't bear it anymore. With his arms like this and his martial souls being 2 daggers, he really couldn't do anything right now. Tang Wulin was already used to their bickering, so he held Shishi's shoulder gently and said, it was just a fluke yesterday. They're actually really strong, so you should just go and recuperate properly, and we'll do our best to cultivate together after. Class 5 was already assembled in the field when Tang Wulin finished speaking. He noticed that Jiang Yangxi wasn't present among the students of Class 1. After all, broken legs were really too troublesome. On the other hand, Wang Jingxi had a broken arm, similar to Shishi, and had that arm bandaged up. In front of the gathered students wasn't just Director Long Henshu, but also President Wu Zhen. Long Henshu looked towards Wu Zhen before he began speaking. Today's 1st grade assembly is to announce 2 things. First, due to the special circumstances of this year's 1st grade, the victorious class will no longer be continuing with the class promotion tournament, but the classes of the 1st grade will still be rearranged according to the results. Namely, what was originally Class 5 is now Class 1, and all of the other classes have been rearranged accordingly. We can't continue participating in the class promotion tournament anymore. An uproar appeared among the students of the new Class 1. If they couldn't continue with the tournament, then that meant they were no longer receiving the reward for being able to challenge the upper grades. Chapter 109, Class 0 is established. Long Henshu continued. In light of the new Class 1's outstanding achievements in this tournament, the entire class will be rewarded with 1 meal a day from the first window for 1 term. After hearing these words, the previous discontent murmuring turned into cheering. What was the first window? It served the most nourishing food. Without even speaking of the taste, it had the most benefits to their cultivation, but was extremely expensive. Most families couldn't afford to feed their children a meal from the first window. 1 term's worth of meals from the first window was worth an extraordinary sum of money. Right now, as the teacher in charge of Class 2, Yinluo's face grew even gloomier at those words. Clearly, she wasn't happy with these developments. Long Henshu shouted, quiet down. It was only then that the cheering gradually subsided. Long Henshu resumed. Due to the excellence of this year's 1st grade, the board of directors has decided to conduct a study. We are establishing an experimental class in the 1st grade that will be comprised of the best students in the grade. It will temporarily be called Class 0, and Wu Zhangkong will be the teacher in charge. The students for Class 0 have already been selected. From Class 1, we have Tang Wulin, Shishi, and Gu Yue. From Class 2, we have Jiang Yangxi, Wang Jingxi, and Wei Zhofeng. In the future, any other student who shows exceptional ability will also be put into Class 0. Class 0? What the hell is this? All of the students assembled were in a daze. In all of East Sea Academy's history, there had never been a class 0. Moreover, what did having Wu Zhangkong as the teacher in charge mean? Tang Wulin's trio was startled, while Wang Jingxi and Wei Zhofeng had similar reactions on the other side. In an almost synchronized motion, the two of them looked towards Tang Wulin's trio. Wei Zhofeng's expression was brimming with loathing and enmity, while Wang Jingxi's gaze was focused solely on Tang Wulin as he made a complicated face. Wu Zhangkong was expressionless as usual, but in reality he had already been notified by the board of directors last night after they decided on approving the plan. Longhand Shu said, aside from these two announcements, there are still punishments to be announced. In the match yesterday between Class 1 and Class 2, both sides prioritized their comrades first and the competition second, which led to 3 students being seriously injured. This has raised a serious concern with the 6 participants. As such, they will be deprived of the tournament rewards as a punishment and warning to others. Deprived of their reward, it would seem that for this Great Class promotion tournament, even if they won, there would be no rewards. Their class would only be promoted. Longhand Shu had said these words harshly, but in reality this wasn't even a punishment at all. President, do you have any words to say? Longhand Shu asked, looking at Uzen to his side. Uzen nodded and began speaking with a clear voice. Students, I am sure you are all very curious as to why we established Class 0. This is because the students we have picked out have already far surpassed the level of their peers. If they were to continue advancing with the other students, their talent would be buried. In summary, if you wish to shine in the future, then you must put in even more effort. I hope that I will see more students joining Class 0 later on, going on to become the greatest geniuses of East Sea Academy. All right then, the assembly is over. You may all leave now. Teachers, lead your classes back. Longhand Shu will act as Class 1 substitute teacher until a new teacher can be found. Wu Zhangkong and the students of Class 0 will remain here. Filled with shock, admiration, envy, and regret, the students of the 5 classes returned to their classrooms, leaving only the president as well as those of the newly established Class 0. Children, come over here. Wu Zhen beckoned everyone over. Although they were somewhat reluctant, the 5 of them still walked over. In the presence of the Academy's president, even Wei Zhofeng didn't dare to act in an unbridled manner. It was clear, however, that Tang Wulin's trio and the other 2 had some tension between them. As Wu Zhen observed the 5 children in front of him, he couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. He coldly said, you guys are quite able, huh? Do you think that just because you're a bit more outstanding than your peers that you're great? Look at you all. What have you accomplished? Among the 5 of you, 2 have broken arms, and there's still one with broken legs resting in the classroom. The 5 of them were scolded into a daze. They had never expected Wu Zhen to reprimand them like this. As soon as they arrived, they were showered with a tongue lashing. Wu Zhen continued on with a stern expression. I have already said what the purpose of Class 0 is. It's to not hold you back. But even with how small you all are, you harbor so much pride and conceit within your hearts. I will have you all behave with integrity in front of me. Otherwise, don't blame the Academy for being impolite. I'm warning you now, if a situation like yesterday's happens again, you will all be punished. Don't think that just because you are geniuses that you don't have to follow the rules. You are all just viewing the sky from the bottom of a well. There are plenty of people even more outstanding than you 5 throughout the Federation. From the very beginning, this world has never lacked geniuses, nor has it lacked geniuses that die young. If a genius wants to become great, then they will have to invest far more effort than an ordinary person. Only then will you live up to your potential. Do you all understand? Understood. In the face of the president's overbearing aura, none of the 5 children could raise their head. Sign this contract. With a flip of his hand, a pile of papers appeared, and he quickly distributed them to the 5 children. The 5 of them subconsciously took the pen. Tang Wulin looked it over, his attention drawn to the large word at the top, contract. Following the title, the content below it could be summarized as saying, Person 30 voluntarily enters a contract with East Sea Academy. Before 30 graduates from the intermediate division and the advanced division, they will not change schools. This was the general gist of the contract. What is the meaning of this? The 5 of them thought in a daze. Now that the Academy has established Class 0, we will invest even more resources into you. Because of this, the Academy wants a guarantee that you will stay here for your studies. It isn't because of some other weird reason. All right then. Just sign it now. Shishi meekly asked, President, shouldn't we discuss with our families before signing this? Wu Zhen blinked a few times. Of course you can. You can go back and discuss it, but you won't be able to join Class 0 anymore. I am a very busy person, and I don't have the time to wait for you. In the time they had been speaking, Tang Wulin had already signed his name on the contract. To him, this contract didn't mean anything at all. Apart from East Sea Academy, he didn't even know where else he could go to study. Just the fact that the Academy would be investing more resources into him, a good for nothing, was a divine gift. He simply didn't have any reason to refuse. Gu Yue signed it in nearly the same time as Tang Wulin. Seeing the 2 of them signing it, Shishi didn't question it anymore. Not being able to leave East Sea Academy wasn't that big of a deal. On the other side, Wang Jingxi had signed it as well. Only Wei Zhofeng was currently hesitating. President, I think it's bad to not consult with my family first. I still want to discuss the matter with them before I sign. After all, my clan might have me go to an even better advanced academy in the future. Wu Zhen nodded. You're very ambitious. You can just go back to Class 2. Now, there are only 5 students in Class 0. As he said this, he had already snatched back the contract from Wei Zhofeng's hands and began chewing him off with his hands. Wei Zhofeng revealed a complicated expression, but in the end he didn't take back that contract. Instead, he bowed to the president before returning to class. After he left, Wu Zhen's stern and cold expression melted into a gentle smile. Seeing his godlike face-changing skills, the 4 students couldn't help but fall into a stupor. All right then. You have all signed the contract, so from now on, you are the elites of the Academy. We will respect Wei Zhofeng's decision, but in the future, I definitely believe that he will regret his choice this day. Although our East Sea Academy isn't ranked too highly on this continent, we are still the sole intermediate Soul Master Academy in this major city. With all of our resources poured into you, I dare say that not even the legendary Shrek Academy could match us. After hearing the president's confident words, the 4 students suddenly felt a bit better about signing the contract. Standing off in the distance, Wu Zhangkong's mouth twitched slightly when he heard those words. Chapter 110, Battle Armor. After Class 0 was established in East Sea Academy, what Tang Wulin found the most shocking was just how differently the Academy treated them when compared with their treatment of the normal students. The classroom changed to a much more open one while their dorm rooms had also been upgraded. They no longer shared a room with 4 people, but rather, they each had their own room now that was situated beside one another. Moreover, their rooms were the same as the ones given to ordinary teachers. In other words, they were enjoying the treatment a teacher would receive. Zhang Yanxi signed the contract without the slightest hesitation when he heard that Wang Jingxi had signed it, including the teacher in charge. Class 0 comprised of 6 people in total. Wu Zhangkong was also given new living quarters alongside the dorms of his students. His previous dorm had now been replaced with a suite. The Academy gave them one day to get themselves organized before Class 0 would officially begin classes the following day. Naturally, even if classes were to begin now, not all of them would be able to attend. After all, 3 of them had suffered serious fractures and could only attend theory classes for now. Class 0's classroom seemed a bit spacious and empty. Although it wasn't any different than the ordinary classrooms, it seemed very large with only 5 students in it. Zhang Yanxi and Wang Jingxi sat on one side while Tang Wulin's trio sat on the other. The 5 of them were like 2 separate rivers. Zhang Yanxi rested his legs on top of a chair, his expression dark. Wang Jingxi was his usual silent self, but his eyes would occasionally flit towards Tang Wulin. Wu Zhangkong entered the classroom with a stern expression and walked to the center. He swept his gaze across the 5 students. From henceforth, your curriculum will undergo a change. His words drew the attention of the 5 students. Even if it was Zhang Yanxi and Wang Jingxi, they couldn't help but admire the icily arrogant Prince Charming's strength. After all, they too had been mesmerized by the battle between Wu Zhangkong and Guan Biao. Wu Zhangkong said, due to the current conditions of your bodies, we will put off cultivation for a while. Instead, we will begin with theory classes. Today we'll start with mechas. Mecha! When they heard this word, all 5 students looked at each other in confusion. Zhang Yangxi's expression brightened a bit as he couldn't help but ask, Teacher Wu, aren't mechas a topic for the advanced division? We're still in the first grade. Isn't this just too early? Typically, the intermediate division would only cover foundational knowledge, and they wouldn't cover mechas until they entered the advanced division. After graduating from the advanced division, they would enter an advanced academy based on their area of study, walking one step at a time towards their goal. Anyone who could graduate from an advanced academy would definitely be an elite of society. They had just started their first of 6 years in the intermediate division, yet they were already learning about mechas. Wasn't this just jumping ahead of themselves? Wu Zhangkong responded naturally. The topics in this mecha class will not be taught in detail, so the course load won't be too much. Among you, who wants to become a mecha master in the future? The 5 of them went silent in unison. Mecha masters were already synonymous with powerful experts in the views of the vast majority. Wu Zhangkong continued, with this being the case, you all better pay attention in class. He shot a glance at Zhang Yangxi as he finished speaking, causing him to tremble from head to toe. Zhang Yangxi no longer dared to utter a single doubtful word. Modern-day mechas have undergone 10,000 years of development, while soul devices have went through several thousand more years of development, becoming more and more widespread. Technology has always been researched for one main reason: war. Soul devices are no exception. It was only after soul devices filled the battlefield that they began to be used by civilians. The soul guide masters of the time never would have imagined that soul-guided devices, or soul devices for short, could be used to empower a soul master by such a large margin. It was only after they discovered this that they began researching mechas. Soul masters have been the most essential profession within the last several tens of thousands of years. Soul masters were not only rare, but the majority of them were also weak. But with the advent of soul devices, this paradigm had shifted. Low-rank soul masters could now become much more powerful by relying on their soul power and soul devices. Afterward, soul mechas began to appear, allowing soul masters to become even stronger. Soul mechas are operated by using soul power from soul power batteries, thus allowing its user to display strength far surpassing their own. The first soul mechas were developed in a larger form, the factor being that the larger they were, the larger the soul power battery they could install as well as the number of weapons it could be equipped with. As technology progressed, mechas became operable by ordinary people with sufficiently strong bodies. From then on, soul mechas became the main weapon of the modern army. In the history of mecha development, there have been periods where the form was small, medium, and large, and now they have taken the form you are all familiar with. This is the basic outline of mecha development. This was a process of trial and error and its resulting improvements. It involved the perfection of soul circuits, various innovations, and the advancement of technology by leaps and bounds. Mechas have only grown increasingly more important in wars ever since their creation. Tang William earnestly listened as this was his first proper lesson on mechas. If he wanted to become a mecha master, this was crucial knowledge to him. But these are not the mechas I want to talk to you about. Wu Zhangkong paused right there, letting astonishment wash over the 5 students. Not these mechas. Wu Zhangkong indifferently said, didn't you all think that as technology developed, ordinary people could control soul devices better and better? Then let me tell you, that's only what ordinary people think. In the tens of thousands of years of history the Douluo continent has witnessed, one fact has never changed. Soul masters are the most powerful existence. With the aid of soul devices, an ordinary person might be able to match up to a soul grandmaster, and with a mecha, they could even possibly contend with a 5-ring soul king. Mechas truly do offer tremendous power to its user, but even so, it cannot give an ordinary person the fighting power of an 8-ring soul Douluo or a 9-ring title Douluo. At the very least, it is impossible at this point in time. She said, then what if they use a super weapon? There are some super weapons that ordinary people can use. Wu Zhangkong nodded. What you speak of is a possibility, but let me ask you in return, what if both sides possess super weapons then? Who will have more power? Let me tell you first though, currently, the strongest super weapon cannot defeat the strongest person. Wu Zhangkong spoke without the slightest hesitation, causing the 5 students to sit down subconsciously in shock. After a short pause, Wu Zhangkong continued speaking. With humanity's trend in weapon technology advancement, perhaps such a weapon will appear in the future, but at the moment, there exists no such weapon. Teacher Wu, this powerful person you spoke of, are they a mecha master or a soul master? Tang Willian asked. Wu Zhangkong said, to be exact, they are both. The mechas you commonly see range from 5 to 8 meters in height and have some peculiar differences depending on what type of mecha they are. These are the modern medium-sized mechas I spoke of. From their research, soul guide masters came to the conclusion that a combination of bulk and flexibility along with a balance of offensive and defensive capabilities were the most suitable for the army. But these are just the standardized mechas for the army. Or it might be better to say, these are mechas for ordinary people. White and yellow mechas are of the same category, but that isn't your goal. With your talents, you absolutely cannot develop in that direction. Instead, you must develop towards battle armor. Battle armor. This was the first time the 5 of them heard these words. Wu Zhangkong continued dully, the truly powerful would not allow their body to become even larger. The reason mechas exist is amplification of power, not to become larger. Purple mechas and onwards are all small in size, to the point where they are almost like armor. Due to this, they are called battle armor. 1. Only soul masters with battle armor can truly be called powerful experts. They are experts who can perfectly combine their martial soul and mecha together, resulting in formidable combat power. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.